Sixers fans, how we feeling out there? Hey y'all, my name is Lauren Gordon. Some of you may already know me on social media as Lauren Fan of the Year. Others may have just stumbled upon this podcast, but either way, I want to first thank all of you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 16 of my very first podcast. I'm just a Sixers fan, the Lauren Fan of the Year story. Now let's continue the story. Y'all, the time is now late September 2021. On September 21st, Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted, ESPN sources, Philadelphia 76ers All-Star Ben Simmons will not report for opening of training camp next week and intends to never play another game for the franchise. Simmons hasn't spoken to team since a late August meeting when he communicated this message to Sixers officials. Ben was going to get fined for every practice, team event that he missed. My son, LJ, said he's going to lose $16 million so fast just from paying fines. It's sad he doesn't want to better himself after he got exposed. My friend Carolyn Muldoon-Sfarakis commented, cutting off his nose to spite his face. My cousin Bruce said, send his ass to Minnesota, just as good as Siberia. F out of here, Ben. You can't shoot anyway. His jumper is broke, y'all, with the laughing emoji. On September 25th, John Clark from NBC Sports Philadelphia reported Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, and other Sixers players were going to fly to Los Angeles that week to meet with Ben Simmons to convince him to stay with the Sixers. But Ben told them not to come because he is not changing his mind on wanting a trade, according to Shams Charania. I was like, oh, come on, Ben. Y'all, to me, this symbolized his teammates extending the olive branch. And I was like, Ben, don't shut the guys down completely. At the end of the day, I would think that his teammates are like brothers. Some days you get along, some days you don't. You're going to click with some players more than others. But as a team, there has to be some kind of connection. In the real world, brothers fight and have disagreements. But at the same time, I get it. Egos are involved, and it's hard to snap back after feeling like your teammates threw you under the bus. Looking back, y'all, it would have been nice if they had gotten together, had honest conversations, and understood that emotions were high back in June, and everyone could have handled things differently. The fellas reached out, but Ben wasn't having it. Ben wanted out, and in his head, I'm sure he felt like he didn't need this ish. He could take his ball handling skills and go to a team where he is respected and appreciated. And for Ben to take this strong stance, he just knew that all the other teams in the NBA would be blowing up Daryl Morey's phone trying to get him. On October the 11th, Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news. The Sixers and agent Rich Paul have progressed on talks that would bring Ben Simmons back to Philly. I posted on social media, Ben is coming back? Those bills must be rolling in. He blinked first, and it's always about the money. On October 18th, Society 76 sent season ticket holders Viewmasters. Y'all remember the toy made popular in the 70s where you'd insert a round photo disc into the iconic red Viewmaster, then you'd hold it up to your eyes and see an enlarged 3D image on a slide. Then you'd advance each slide by pushing down the side lever. Y'all, a Viewmaster took me back to my childhood. This Sixers gift set also included a little disc reel that had images of our Sixers. The theme for the upcoming Sixers season was a throwback to the 70s. Even the Sixers logo had a throwback feel. It was in the same font as the Spectrum, the legendary arena from back in Dr. J's era when we won the championship. I was hoping that some of that good mojo from that era would rub off into this upcoming season. The next day, October 19th, it was reported that Ben was scheduled to speak to the media. I was like, I think Ben is just going to read a statement. I can't imagine him taking questions. Sixers beat writer Keith Pompey reported Ben Simmons was kicked out of practice for not being engaged. He will not speak to the media today. Y'all, I was right. Ben avoided speaking to the media and was suspended by the organization for doing something detrimental to the team. Ben Simmons was now the hot topic across the league and all sports media. Ben was becoming a distraction and a huge disappointment. Do y'all remember me telling y'all that one of my rewards from my Fan of the Year prize pack was a StubHub gift card? I was already a season ticket holder, so I decided to use the gift card to travel to road games. I'd get really good lower level seats and have an amazing fan experience. My daughter Kendall's creativity with my submission video played a huge part in me winning the contest, so I wanted to make sure I included her on a few of my road trips. The Sixers season opener that year was on October 20th in New Orleans. I really wanted to go, but I was nervous to travel alone. Kendall had just began her sophomore year at Widener University, so I didn't want to disrupt her classes and education. An inner voice said, Lauren, if you wait for people and circumstances to work out before you do things, you're going to miss out on a lot. Just go. I went on the StubHub website and purchased the best seat available, right behind the Sixers bench. I purchased my airline ticket and hotel in downtown New Orleans. I wanted to be in the middle of the action. I thought it made sense to book a hotel within walking distance of the Smoothie King Arena. That's where the Pelicans play. Y'all, I was so excited, and I thought, OMG, this is going to be awesome. On October 20th, I woke to my alarm at the wee hours of the morning. It was still dark outside, y'all, but it was easy to hop out of bed because, y'all, I had a flight to catch to New Orleans. I wore a Sixers top, some tights, threw on my sneakers and my Sixers jacket. It's always important for me to rep my team wherever I go. I even had all of my stuff packed in my Sixers gym bag, which doubled as my carry-on bag. Before leaving the house, I took a selfie of myself standing in my closet full-length mirror. I looked like an official Sixers fan. I was ready for my trip. My daughter Corey agreed to watch my house and take care of Murphy while I was away. I boarded my American Airlines flight, took a few selfies, closed my eyes, and rested up. I knew I had a long, fun-filled day ahead. I safely landed in New Orleans. I always remember to thank God during takeoffs and landings. And because I packed everything on my carry-on Sixers bag, it just makes airport travel so easy. I catch a lift to my hotel, and what I've experienced over my years of travel is usually I'm able to do an early check-in, especially if you ask nicely. But even if early check-in isn't available, Y'all, I just find a place for breakfast and then I walk around the city because I just want to take it all in. Now, I had been in New Orleans years prior to this trip when I was still married for our son's wrestling tournament when he qualified for the Junior Olympics. Side note, y'all, my son LJ is a 2-time state junior wrestling champ. I love to brag on my kids every chance I get. But anyway, this time I was in New Orleans alone. I was so proud of myself. I was able to check into the hotel early, so I went to my room to unload. Then I walked the city, and around lunchtime, I found this food eatery that had a bunch of food vendors, and I ended up getting some Jamaican food. While in this restaurant, every television had Ben Simmons' face plastered on the screen, as he was sports media's hot topic. I enjoyed walking around New Orleans, and no matter what city I traveled to, I always walk to the arena early just so that I have a general idea as to where I need to go later that evening for the game. Then I walk back to my hotel, I charge my phone, and then I take a little nap. I wake up well rested, I hop in the shower, and then I get dressed in my Sixers best. For this particular game, I wore my blue Joel Embiid jersey with Fila across the front. And y'all, the weather was gorgeous. It was October, but I didn't need to wear my jacket that I wore when I left Philly earlier that morning. When I left the hotel, I followed the sea of Pelicans fans in the streets who were heading to the Smoothie King Arena. Even though I was wearing my Sixers jersey, everyone was super cool. A few people would say stuff like, "Oh no, we can't allow her in the building," but I knew it was all in good fun. Again, I took lots of photos and videos, and Pelicans fans even offered to take photos of me with my camera. I went through security, and fans were still required to wear a mask, and then I had my tickets scanned. Upon walking in the concourse, I was handed a Pelicans t-shirt from one of the Pelicans staff. It was their season opener giveaway. I was grateful because I wanted a keepsake from the game. I love walking around the concourse of different arenas. I have a mental checklist. I gotta peep all the concession stands. I want to see the variety and see what they have to offer that's different than the Wells Fargo Center. I enjoy just people watching and just looking at the crowd. And even though it's pregame, I gauge the fan intensity. And then I do like this vibe check. Like, is there music playing? Do you hear a drum line in the background? Like, are the fans super hype or are they kind of like chill, you know? Just those few things tell me a lot about the fan base. For the most part, the Pelicans fans were lit. They had just gotten Zion like a couple seasons prior. He was the face of their franchise, but he didn't play that game, and I don't think he played that season actually due to injury. But the Pelicans did have Brandon Ingram. And I remember the Pelicans having a nice crowd turnout for their season opener. I approached an usher, showing her my ticket, and y'all, she put a gold VIP courtside club wristband on my arm, and then I was escorted to a private room where I had unlimited access to food and drinks. I remember thinking, shoot, now this is what I'm talking about. This is totally my vibe. I grabbed me a plate, a margarita, I mingled amongst the Pelicans fans, and then, y'all, I proceeded to my seat, right behind the Sixers bench. There was a guy who was seated in the row directly behind me, and as soon as he saw me approaching my seat, repping my Sixers, he started playfully talking smack. Well, one thing about me, y'all, is you can't out-smack talk me, if that makes sense. You say something to me, I'm going to say something back to you that might sting, but it keeps you from responding because, y'all, I hate that whole back and forth thing. And a lot of times people are caught off guard because I come across as very sweet, very mindful, very demure. But y'all, when someone is trashing my team, like I can't. And even if they're right, I'm going to defend my team. I do remember the guy introducing himself, but I can't remember his name. So, for the sake of this story, let's just call him Mike. And y'all, I could tell just from me approaching my seat that Mike had already began his day drinking. And he was younger than me. He was a huge Pelicans fan because he was all decked out in his Pelicans gear. And y'all, he told me it was his birthday. So that was a little understandable. Like, I get it. So he was just at the game alone, just having a good old time. And I said, "Oh, well, happy birthday." Then, y'all, I settled into my seat. And who did I see just a few steps away? Y'all, it was General Manager and President of Basketball Operations, Daryl Morey. I was like, OMG. And I remember because we were both wearing masks, so I was waving frantically, yelling through my mask, "Mr. Morey, Mr. Morey, can I get a selfie?" Y'all, Daryl came over and I told him that I had just flew in from Philadelphia that morning just to see the Sixers season opener. He seemed surprised and said, "Wow, that's great." As I fumbled for the camera button on my cell phone to take the selfie, I followed up with, "I know you have your hands full with Ben, but I trust that everything's going to work out well for our team." Morey just laughed, and then Mike offered to take the photo. I handed Mike my phone. He snapped a few pictures, and then out of nowhere, y'all, Mike started bashing Daryl Morey with him standing right there. And then, y'all, I stood up for my GM and President of Basketball Operations, and I told Mike to calm the hell down and not talk to my GM like that. Daryl Morey gave me a smile and just walked away. He never addressed Mike. I looked at Mike and said, "What the hell is wrong with you? Are you drunk?" And he replied, "Yes, it's my birthday." I told him, "Well, you need to relax. We haven't even gotten the tip off." Then, y'all, my Sixers ran out onto the court for the pregame shoot-around. A cart filled with water bottles was rolled right in front of me. Each Sixers player's name was taped to a bottle. Then Doc Rivers walked by. I yelled his name. He gave me a head nod and a little wave. And y'all, Matisse Thybulle was with his trainer doing stretches near the bench, and I could literally reach out and touch him. Because he was in earshot range, I just said, "Let's go, Matisse," and he looked up and smiled. Then I saw Maxie and yelled his name. He looked up, smiled, and waved back. I wondered if he remembered me from last month's 97.5 Fan Fest. I mean, y'all, after all, I was introduced to him as his #1 fan. I knew that he recognized me, but just couldn't pinpoint from exactly where. I didn't want to be a distraction because, y'all, my guys looked locked into the game. So, like a good fan, y'all, I just cheered and clapped for the guys as they entered the game and returned to the bench. Y'all, I even made friends with the couple who sat next to me. It was a lady named Maggie and her husband. I can't remember his name. Well, anyway, they lived in New Orleans, but they were Sixers fans. And when I told them my story, they could not believe that I was in New Orleans solely for my Philadelphia 76ers. But they thought it was pretty cool. Y'all, by the end of the first quarter, Mike must have increased his alcohol intake because he was feeling no pain. I could tell because he was just being obnoxious. He was yelling at the ushers and just random people walking by. I ignored him. And he was warned multiple times by the ushers to just sit down and be quiet. He would for the moment, and then he'd start right back up again. But y'all, when he began yelling stuff at the players, he was quickly escorted out of the Smoothie King Arena. And that was the last that I saw of Mike. But I do have a picture of him on my social media. Oh my God. Well, even though I like to have fun going back and forth with the fans, I just don't engage with people who are drunk. I won't even put myself in that situation. I remember thinking, dang, Mike got ejected from the game, y'all, and it was still the first quarter. But I have to admit, once he left with his drunk ass self, it did make the game more enjoyable for everyone in our section. We ended up beating the New Orleans Pelicans that evening, 117-97. Joel Embiid and Furkan Korkmaz each had 22 points. Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey had 20 points each. Bang Bang, George Niang and Seth Curry had double-digit scoring with 11 and 10 points respectively. It was nice, balanced scoring. Not one person had to carry the weight. And I was thinking, that's how you start the 2021-2022 season. Y'all, we were 1-0, undefeated for the season, undefeated on the road. Shoot, I felt like I was the good luck charm. What a game. What a night. What a trip. And I thought, wow, I did a lot and covered a lot of ground in 36 hours. I began making my list and realized that at this point, I had now officially seen my Sixers play in 6 different NBA arenas. Y'all, I was grateful for this fan experience. I was grateful for it all. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And be sure to join our next episode as we continue the story.